Hello, hello, hello. The mask is back, okay? And we have a very underrated card here. I think it's being very overlooked for 314 and 315 even. Which even that's an underrated card, UFC 315, but this is even more so. People are just saying, "Oh, it's decent." I disagree. I think this is a great card, a really great one. So, you know, let's just get into it, Let's make some very fun predictions here. Ozzy Diaz and Jorgen Santos. Now, I went back and I watched his fight on the Contender Series. The dude was Curry, I think his name was, or last name. The dude was going for body kicks and takedowns a lot, and I know that's not Ozzy Diaz's game either because I don't know why I said either, but he likes to do like very simple oafy plotty kind of things on the feet. He likes to jab. I noticed that he has a very accurate jab to the body, but also Min Ying Zhang, his last opponent, that he fought was actually very open to the body just because he has a long torso and he keeps his hands very high. So that was, that's a no-brainer to go for against Min Ying Zhang. And we know that the takedowns, seeing in Jorgen Santos's last fight, is going to be very hard for a guy like Ozzy Diaz, since a really athletic guy who also sets up the takedowns with well-timed body kicks also did not have much success. So, he's going to be stuck on the feet using his hands most likely. And, he does have an okay right hand. He does have a good body jab, decent head jab. But Jorgen Santos, his right hand is so accurate, especially his straight right and his uppercut right. And that is really good for me picking a guy like Jorgen Santos, who I am going to end up picking. But it's mainly because even though he has a lot of decisions, we have seen in the past that the Jorgen Santos, especially in his contender series fights specifically, that he was able to hurt his opponent a lot. And seeing as his other opponent, the Curry guy, um, I forget the first name, but seeing as he hasn't taken as much damage as Ozzy Diaz, I think that Ozzy Diaz is not going to be able to take the kind of straight rights or uppercut rights that Jorgen Santos lands on him because he finds these beautiful uppercuts which, normally you can't find on other opponents just in between the guard, just perfectly. And so Ozzy Diaz, if he doesn't like these straight rights that Jorgen Santos is landing earlier in the fight, and he just ends up covering up in the third or second, or late in the second or early in the third, I could definitely see Jorgen Santos getting a TKO here. And so I think that Ozzy Diaz is going to fall after an actually competitive first round. Second round, I think he's going to start to fade, and Jorgen Santos is going to land some really solid straight rights. And then that's going to set up the uppercut beautifully because he's going to think that the right's coming. And even also, I like that early in the third round against the Contender Series guy, Curry, again, forget the first name, but something Curry. Um, Jorgen Santos was landing beautiful like combinations upstairs, downstairs. He against the fence early in that round, in the third round, he was landing decent like straight rights, and then he went to the body with a left shovel hook it looked like, and then a leg kick, and then he went back upstairs. So I like that he has these very wide variety of tools, and so I'm gonna say round three TKO. Chris Gutierrez versus John Castaneda. Now, I vividly remember I believe it's Daniel Marcos. I believe that's his name. Yep. Um, Daniel Marcos fight of John Castaneda's career. I remember that he was not very good at handling the jabs or the straight punches, and that's ultimately what led to him losing that fight. I think Daniel Marcos landed some good straight shots, which actually dropped John Castaneda into separate moments in the fight. And Chris Gutierrez, he does have really good straight punches. And now he sets them up with the leg kicks, but I also think that Daniel Marcos also had okay leg kicks, and Gutierrez is going to be able to replicate that very well. So I actually think that maybe his straight punches aren't quite as good, but his leg kicks are better, so that's going to make up for it. And so I think that Chris Gutierrez is going to have a very nice decision here, a very clear cut 30-27. It's a typical thing in his career, but um, you know, when you work with Jonathan Martinez, you're gonna have fantastic kicks, and most of these lower ranked guys in the bantamweight division are not going to be able to catch up in the striking if you just destabilize their legs, I feel. So I just think that unless he's fighting a top 15 guy or like a Pedro Munoz who can handle leg kicks pretty well and just has a strong chin, you're not really going to phase a guy like that. But against John Castaneda, I think that Chris Gutierrez has the perfect style, really. So yeah. Francis Marshall versus Mayron Santos. I really liked the again of the variety from Mayron Santos. He had beautiful eyes for like seeing these shots. The way I worded that was really weird. Beautiful eyes. No, he has like really what I mean is he has like really like Makachev. Like Makachev, he his striking defense looks kind of odd. Although Marin Santos doesn't necessarily have that same kind of like, oh, the way he moves his head is kind of odd. No, but like he's similar to Makachev in the sense that he has like really good eyes for these punches. He just sees things coming. You know, he it's like he doesn't have his hands all the way to his head most of the time. He doesn't really have a very good defense. But what he does have, which makes up for that, is he sees these shots. He sees everything coming really most of the time, and that's why he was able to line up that beautiful. I think it was an uppercut, maybe it was a left hook. Then he KO'd Kanofli in the Contender Series with, and or was it a tough? I think it was tough. Either way, he countered him beautifully, and even before then, he was landing beautiful teeps to the body, which I think against Francis Marshall, that's gonna very much destabilize him, get him tired, get him feeling very slow and sluggish. And Francis Marshall also got outworked in certain moments by you know, Dennis Bazooka, Isaac Dulgarian. Connor Matthews is not a very impressive win looking back. And, his striking is very basic. So I just, I feel like that was a decision even. This is going to be like a pretty clear cut win for Mayron Santos. I'm pretty confident in that. And even though I could 100% see a KO here, I think that Francis Marshall, he's going to be. No, you know what? I'm gonna pick a round two TKO actually. I think that Mayron Santos he just sets things up really beautifully. He even went for like a Superman punch at one point in the third round, I think it was, or was it the second? I think it was, yeah, because in a Kanofli fight it was a round two TKO or no, it was a full KO. It wasn't a TKO, but either way, yeah, it was a beautiful. I think well, not beautiful. It landed partially, but he did go for a Superman punch, and it did land. I'm pretty sure. So, his straight punches, really nice, really accurate punches, I noticed. And he has nice counters. So I'm going to say around 2 TKO, actually. I mean, the dude, Isaac Dugarian's pretty decent, but he did lose, arguably, to Christian Rodriguez, I think his name is, C-Rod. And, Francis Marshall got KO'd by the guy that had a split decision against C-Rod. So, Isaac Dugarian, I'm referring to, of course. So, I mean, if Isaac Dulgarian's going to KO you, who I think has a similar power level to Marin Santos, and maybe not as same kind of technique, I think that Marin Santos is going to destroy the body and then come upstairs with a beautiful counter. That's what I see. And then we have Alex Moreno versus Carlos Leal. I mean, Alex Moreno, he's not going to be able to take down Carlos Leal. We know that, seeing as Renat Fakhretdinov wasn't able to, who is closer to a prime years of his fighting career. And then we have Carlos Leal, who we know is taking roids. I mean, you just look at his physique in the fight, and then you look at pictures close up to him. He was all spotty. People talk about Marab, but Carlos Leal looked so juiced. The fact that I mean, just even looking at the fight, the way that he was able to shuck off these takedowns, the fact that he was able to do it in the fashion that he did in the fight, it was crazy. It definitely looked like he was righted up. And so, even though he might be tested harder in this first real professional fight of his UFC career in which he's actually got a full camp and isn't coming in on short notice, yeah, he could definitely look way worse because it could be a Basil Hafez situation where he just gets absolutely fraud checked or something like that because oh he wasn't able to take roids this time, or it could be like a close competitive decision, and that's still kind of a fraud check. But I mean, Alex Morono, he really didn't look good against Nico Price. I was really disappointed in that, and also in the Daniel Rodriguez fight, that was also something that I wasn't really impressed with. And these are guys that are much older and also on the way out too. So I think that Carlos Leal is much closer to his prime as well. And his first UFC fight was a great showing. The athleticism is just going to be there for Carlos Leal. So I think a late first round KO. I think that Alex Morono has had a really good chin, but sometimes these really good chins just got to get cracked at some point. So I think these are going to be great prelims actually. And we have Bruno Ferreira versus Armin Petrosyan. I'm gonna go with Armin Petrosyan. I know last time I picked him, and the last few times I actually picked him, the last couple times against Rodolfo Vieira and Cheryl Burlett, Magomedov, I was wrong. But this time he's fighting a much more one-dimensional guy, a guy that likes to repeatedly throw spinning back elbows until it lands very predictably, unless you are Dustin Stoltzfus, in which case you are not the most technical guy and you're just kind of winning fights off of certain fluky moments. If we're being honest, he did kind of win against Marc-Andre Barriot in a kind of fluky situation where they were just kind of throwing big meaty hooks, big exchanges, big just wild shots. So he kind of just was the one who happened to come on top of that big exchange. So against a guy like Dustin Stoltzfus, he's certainly not as technical as Armin Petrosyan. In my opinion, Armin Petrosyan was actually winning most of the fight against Shara Bullet. Now, granted, Shara Bullet was finding his timing certainly late in the second round, but Armin Petrosyan, his leg kicks are really good. His straight punches are really fast. He actually kind of similarly to me reminds me of Magomed Ankalaev. And so I think that he's going to have a pretty clear-cut 30-27 or maybe late rounds TKO, but I think that people are massively underrating Armin Petrosyan, and I think most people are in Tapology are picking Bruno Ferreira just because he's a slight underdog, and people think, oh, I'm unique picking an underdog, picking Bruno Ferreira here. No, you're not. Most people are picking Bruno Ferreira to KO Armin Petrosyan, and it's just no, it's not the smart pick if you ask me. I think the smart pick here is Armin Petrosyan. Decision. It's just like Bruno Ferreira just really throws hooks most of the time. Sometimes he'll throw a decent jab, but it's either spinning back fist, spinning back elbow, or like um, flimsy leg kicks or big meaty hooks. That's really it. And then Ray Saruya versus Joshua Van. Ray Saruya, on top of the fact that he leaves his chin up high and that Joshua Van is an insane boxer with good takedown defense, Ray Saruya is coming into this short notice, and Joshua Van is much more prepared, I feel. He was going to fight, was it, it wasn't Cody Durden, it was someone like Bruno Silva. Yeah, I think it was. And Bruno Silva is a guy that, he is maybe willing to go for certain kind of jujitsu moments, jujitsu exchanges, grappling exchanges that a Rey Saruya would. So you could see that Joshua Van, even going into this, would have the stylistic advantage, having prepared for some form of a jujitsu kind of guy, even though Rey Saruya also is more well-rounded than just the jiu-jitsu guy. He has grappling, he has wrestling as a whole. He mixes it in, and he does have decent straight punches. He landed a pretty good 1-2 on Carlos Hernandez. I believe that's his name. Yeah, Carlos Hernandez. Let me just double check. Yep. In his first UFC fight, and that was a really good 1-2 into I believe it was a takedown afterwards, shortly after. And, he has decent setups. So he could actually end up getting this 29-28 just off of having insane jiu-jitsu moments because he was going for the twister against Carlos Hernandez. But Carlos Hernandez showing really good jiu-jitsu and takedown defense. Specifically jiu-jitsu, he was getting taken down pretty easily in the first two rounds, but then Rey Rio was fading in the third round, and I do not see that as a good thing against Joshua Van, who actually just grows as the fight goes on. So I'm gonna say I could really see a TKO, but lately Joshua Van has been showing that he doesn't really have that much pop on his shots. Pop, if you didn't hear. I think he has like mid pop, not great pop, but mid pop. So ultimately, I think that Joshua Van could TKO him late, but that would be due to exhaustion, not really Joshua Van having crazy one punch power. So I'm going to say decision for Van, pretty decisively. Maybe a 29-28 but actually no, I think he's going to get 10-8 in the third round. So I'm going to say 29-27. And we have Curtis Blades headlining the prelims against Rizvan Kuniev. I don't know what the Weasel is on. I actually genuinely picked Ricky Simone and or no one of the Basharat brothers against Ricky Simone a couple weeks back or a week back, whenever it was. I picked yeah, a couple weeks back one of the Basharat bros against Ricky Simone and Ibo Aslan against what is it, Ian Kutalava, because like especially I picked the Basharat bro because I saw Weasel picked 70% chance that the Basharat bro picks or beats Ricky Simone, picks him apart on the feet, and then he just masterclasses him. And that's not what happened at all. So I honestly, like, I like the Weasel's videos sometimes. It's informative sometimes, and it's decent if I'm bored and if I want to hear just hear a guy that's been around in the space for so long. But let's be honest, he's honestly overrated with his picks, and especially lately you're seeing that. I don't think that his Marab and O'Malley video was actually that good. I think that O'Malley is one of the only few guys that is really in contention for the title with how Marab has handled the bantamweight division. And this is another one of those takes where I just don't understand it. Rizvan Kuniev is not more technical than Curtis Blaze. He's not more fast. Go back and rewatch his Contender Series fight. He looked so slow. He actually got caught by like a left hook into a right, and it was against a guy that I don't even really know of outside of the fact that, he fought in the Contender Series, or yeah, Dana's Contender Series against Rizvan, and that he has a decent record. His last guy, I think the dude's name is Hugo. Yeah, Hugo Cunha. That was not a really good showing because Rizvan Cunha looked slow. He looked like, he looked like a blob, and he also was kind of controlling Rizvan against the cage in that moment. So I don't know what Weasel is talking about. Maybe he's looking at his past fights against Renan Ferreira in the PFL or wherever. And I don't really look at that. You got to look at the most recent stuff, and his most recent stuff did not look impressive to me. You're comparing Curtis Blades, who actually had a decent showing for himself against Tom Aspinall until he got jabbed and then KO'd. But that's Tom Aspinall, who has insane speed, and so the fact that he was able to land a jab, and then yeah, he missed the right hand after because Tom Aspinall has insane head movement. But that's Tom Aspinall, the best heavyweight. So it's like going from that to this, it's just no, no. He's gonna either take him down at will, just off of sheer technique and strength and good wrestling, and he's gonna land some razor blades, as his nickname is, those elbows, or he's just gonna land a beautiful 1-2 because he trusts in his hands better and he's just faster. So I mean, brother, he is a way more athletic heavyweight. You can't convince me otherwise. The Weasel can't, and even I think that maybe I'm wrong here, but I think that he picked Ibo Aslan against uh, Ion Kutalaba. I might be wrong on that. I think that was one of his predictions where it was like 52%, 48%, so it was like a 50-50 almost for him. And it is like that for him here, but it's like it's a no-brainer that you pick Curtis Razor Blades here. It's a no-brainer. And if Rizvan wins, okay, sure, but going into it, it just makes no sense to pick Rizvan. It just isn't a sensible pick. And so yeah, round one TKO. And Marcio Rufi versus King Green or Bobby Green. I mean, the name change is a bit silly, but it is what it is. Okay, Marcio Rufi, he had beautiful exchanges against James Lontop. Very underrated performance because people talk about, oh my gosh, he was actually getting outlanded in the third round. It was actually a 29-28, blah blah blah. James Lontop was literally okay, like 20 pounds bigger. He had no reason to weight cut there, and the UFC didn't give him the necessary weight cut because he was coming in filling in on short notice. James Longtop was a big dude going into there. It was like a lightweight fighting a welterweight there. And so you could see why Rufy wasn't able to KO him there. For all the people that are saying, oh my gosh, bro, it was such a lame performance. Brother, okay? King Green, Bobby Green, whatever you want to call him, he has good straight punches, and I do think that he's going to land some down the pipe. I do 100%. But he has not looked the same. He goes for these straight punches with his hands down. He taunts his opponent against a fast starter and a just one of the fastest lightweights we've seen in a while, a insanely fast lightweight who has look away dropping left hooks or right hooks, whatever it was. I forget if it was left or right, but he dropped James Lontop with a look away left or right hook. Okay, this is a terrible matchup. And a 38-year-old King Green or Bobby Green who is going to be much slower as he's gotten KO'd, as he's gotten put out by even a submission against Paddy Pimblett. He got put out in that fight. That's not good. This is going to be a dismantling from Marcio Rufy. But you know what? I think King Green is going to implement, or Bobby Green, whatever, is going to implement a safer strategy early in the fight. I think he is going to try and sort of just jab, play a little bit of a kickboxing sort of style because they are a similar height and, the reach is not in his favor, but I do think that he's going to try and play this safer. I think it's going to be an early round 2 TKO actually this time. I don't think it's going to be a round 1. I think he's actually going to look decent. He had good head movement against Rafael Fiziev, who has a similar kind of hooks in a close. And Rafael Fiziev, we talk about him as having amazing power and amazing ferocity. So the fact that he wasn't able to KO King Bobby Green, I think that that's kind of telling of, King Green or Bobby Green, whatever. He can last, okay? He's gonna last until he doesn't. He's gonna get dropped in the first round late, similar to Alex Pereira versus Yuri Prohaska, and then it's just going to be over in the second round. It's going to be over early in the second. And then we have Amanda Lemos versus Yasmin Lucindo. This is very much a crazy one that most people are picking Lucindo, and this one, it's actually a justifiable reason to pick the underdog, except for the fact that, Amanda Lemos is insanely old. But this is one that the people picking Bruno Ferreira against Armin Petrosian should be picking because this is one that's like Amanda Lemos does have the fast hooks, the fast straights to actually KO Lasmin Lucindo, and she's due for a KO because she's actually had some really good TKOs, not KOs but TKOs earlier in her career. Especially specifically in the UFC, even some really good ones against some actually underrated opposition, and so you know, this is actually the underdog pick that you should be picking. This is like the women's MMA version of a Armin Petrosian versus Bruno Ferreira, except it's actually in the rankings. And I actually think that this is, people are saying, oh, she's gonna win the people that are picking Amanda Lemos are saying, oh, she's gonna win these striking exchanges on the feet, winning a decision off of having the more damaging shots. I actually think that she's going to finish her. I think that the ref is going to step in and it's actually going to be an underrated fight in the sense that, not an underrated fight in the sense that it's competitive, but in the sense it's a brutal, actually almost TKO where Amanda Lemos is due for a TKO and she actually finds one. She gets sets it up with a jab, some feints, and then she ultimately comes around the guard with a left hook, I'll say, a quick one that really hurts Lasmin Lucindo, and then she gets a few good shots around the guard, looping, and then some straight ones, and then Lasmin Lucindo almost falls over. Ref steps in. She looks dazed. She looks wobbled, you guys. She's absolutely wobbled, you guys. I'm gonna say round 1 KO for Amanda Lemos. Okay, I'm gonna say round 1. All right, I'm gonna go with round 1 KO, almost KO. Maybe TKO is more likely here for Amanda Lemos. Round 1. Jalen Turner, Ignacio Bahamondes. Now this one I actually is very, very different than what most fans are suggesting. I'm surprised. I'm really surprised that most Tapology fans and most MMA YouTubers are picking Ignacio Bahamondes. This is crazy to me that most people aren't watching the tape back because I've been watching the tape for a lot of these fights, and I think that this is a clear cut win for Jalen Turner. This is like okay, this is obvious to me. If you watch the Ludwig Klein fight, people have not watched that fight back. If you go back and watch that fight, it is completely different than what the narrative is. The narrative is that Ludwig Klein outgrappled him to a 29-28. That is not what happened at all. It was a clear-cut 30-27 for Ludwig Klein, okay, baby? Okay, baby. And the reason is, yes, there was grappling. Yes, he won in the grappling exchanges for the most part. But it was actually the straight punches down the pipe. And Ludwig Klein was 8 inches shorter, I think it was. Almost 6, 7, 8 inches shorter or something like that. He was like 5'8", okay? 5'8" against 6'3" with a 3.5 inch reach disadvantage. He was landing straight punches down the pipe. It was fast, athletic, powerful straight punches down the pipe, and a couple of those actually rocked Ignacio Bahamondes in moments. Jalen Turner has the exact same straight punches down the pipe, and Ignacio Bahamondes is not the kind of guy that is able to capitalize on the sequences and weaknesses that these other guys have been able to exploit upon Jalen Turner. For example, Dan Hooker overwhelmed Jalen Turner with big just flurries. Renato Moicano able to get the takedowns off of just pressuring Jalen Turner up against the fence. Ignacio Bahamondes does not shoot for takedowns. He got a Bravo choke against Rong Zhu back in the day, but that is a choke. That is not his grappling. He got it off of a choke. That does not mean that he's gonna shoot, especially against Jalen Turner. Jalen Turner was the one that was actually more willing to shoot takedowns in a more recent fight in his career. When he got hurt against Dan Hooker, he shot a takedown in the third round and when he was tired. And he actually got it, okay? So he is the one that is more likely to shoot takedowns here, okay? Now we have Jalen Turner. Beautiful straight punches down the pipe. Fast, athletic ones. Very much killer instinct. He has good teeps down the pipe. Nobody tests the body against Ignacio Bahamondes. Body shots were there for Ludwig Klein and even other opponents in his career. It is these loopy guys that Ignacio Bahamondes is able to counter. It is these guys that don't set up their strikes, that have shorter reaches, that are just shorter in general. It is these what's his name? I'm not gonna remember if I don't click. Manuel Torres. Okay, the dude was just swinging shots, and then it was perfect stylistically for Ignacio Bahamondes to step back counter for. It was perfect for him, and similar against Christos Giagos. Let me just double check. Yes, Christos Giagos. Until he got the head kick, the reason why he was able to counter with the straight right and the uppercut was because he was throwing looping shots and getting terribly out of line, out of reach, out of range. And Ignacio, it was like a birthday present. It was like a Christmas present on Christmas morning, okay? These last two opponents for him. Jalen Turner is a nightmare for him. It absolutely is a nightmare matchup for him. And the other style that got to Jalen Turner was these guys that are heavy grapplers. It was a Mateusz Gamrot. It was a Renato Moicano, these guys like Renato that are heavy on top that he's not able to get back up from. It is these guys that, like Mateusz Gamrot, who constantly go for takedowns, constantly are not letting you set up anything on the feet. And then it is Jalen Turner, his style, which I saw against Ludwig Klein in the Ignacio Bahamondes fight, where elbows is very prevalent. Elbows in close from Ludwig Klein when he was getting in and out in these boxing exchanges, hopping in and then getting beautiful shots in, beautiful short hooks into the body, into the to the face, straight shots even, not just hooks but straight shots. It was these elbows even. And Jalen Turner, what did he do when he rocked Dan Hooker with a beautiful head kick, which is there against Ignacio Bahamondes. He doesn't keep his guard very high or close. Sometimes he keeps it high, but not close to his chin. What does what does he do? After he head kick rocks Dan Hooker in the second round, he cuts Dan Hooker with beautiful elbows and close. It looked like two or three landed in there close, and they just dazed Dan Hooker really good earlier in that second round. This is a clear cut pick for me. I'm gonna have to go with a round. I'm gonna have to say a round because Ignacio is tough. I'm gonna say round three TKO. I'm gonna say maybe a vicious KO. Actually, I'm gonna say a vicious round three TKO or just KO. Simple as that. And Rafael Fiziev versus Justin Gaethje. Wow, I'm predicting a lot of KOs here. Actually, a lot of KOs. And I'm gonna do it again. Okay. Fiziev is going to get the round two TKO. I just think that, or flatline. I just think that Justin Gaethje, and I picked this actually in their first fight. I think that Justin Gaethje, he does not like to deal with these fast guys. Now, Justin Gaethje handled it being patient, but now he's saying in all these interviews that he's going to try and be aggressive. I'm sorry, that is not the way you fight Rafael Fiziev. You are going to be so much more open when you just try and fight how you did against Michael Johnson or Eddie Alvarez or even Dustin Poirier back in the day. Not the second fight, but the first fight. You have to fight like how you did against Rafael Fiziev the first time or Dustin Poirier the second time, where he was staying back, waiting for his moments to burst, and then when he did, he stepped right back out, where he's not in danger and he covers up beautifully with the high guard there. Now, Rafael Fiziev is definitely going to counter when he comes in with these sloppy, aggressive moments because Justin Gaethje is feeling like he's going to need to prove something. He's talking like on social media saying, oh, I don't got a lot of time left. And he says that a lot, but, he's saying, I got to bring back the aggressive Gaethje. I got to prove something every single time I bounce back after a loss. He feels like he needs to prove something. And the first fight, I actually still think that Rafael Fiziev won. And so Fiziev doesn't really need to make adjustments. Gaethje doesn't really need to either, but he's thinking like he does. And that's the problem here. He's thinking he needs to be less defensively responsible and just go for it. He wants to make a statement to get the Islam Makhachev fight. He thinks that, oh, this is going to be a Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Scam Denise situation. And it's just not the same. He's trying to like set up all these narratives for himself in this fight, and he's 36. He's a lot older. Dustin Poirier was 35, I believe, when he fought what was it, Islam Makhachev. So or even Benoit Saint Denis. So it's a different situation. He's trying to set himself up mentally like, oh, this is the same thing like Dustin Poirier. I'm just gonna get through this contender, and that's that. And it's not that like that. He's like, oh my gosh, he's a dangerous contender. I'm gonna have to inflict the damage, bring the danger back to him. There's just so many things mentally here why I feel like Rafael Fiziev has been ready. He's been asking for fights. I've seen that since like May of last year, even like so much time wasted from Fiziev's career that he's been like constantly in the gym, constantly calling people out, and I just think that even in his interviews lately, he's been saying, "No, I was gonna be booked for February against in the Australia card against Mateusz Gamrot, but that didn't happen. And then there was another fight a few months before then. I was gonna be booked for December. I was gonna be booked for this." And so he has been looking for fights even before then, even before Justin Gaethje got booked against Dan Hooker. And then it's a completely different style matchup where Dan Hooker, he likes to throw a lot of body kicks. He likes to just throw random flurries when he feels like he's got the momentum on his side. And Fiziev is just a completely different style. He loves those body shots. He loves those vicious hooks to the head. He has good uppercuts. Uppercuts. No, he has good uppercuts. He has decent spinning attacks. And I just think that he's gonna frickin' viciously when Gaethje is going for something aggressive, he overextends. Rafael Fiziev is gonna throw a beautiful straight punch. It's kind of loopy but kind of straight, sort of like how Alex Pereira had a shovel left hook. It was like a uppercut with a left hook combined against Jamal Hill. It's gonna be like a combination of like a straight and a hook kind of. down the pipe, and then it's gonna rock Justin Gaethje, and he's gonna cover up against the fence, and then not quite against the fence, but he's gonna try and like back up, and maybe try and bait Fiziev like Adesanya did against um, Pereira, and then he's just gonna get flatlined by a beautiful left hook from Rafael Fiziev, maybe a right hook, but I just know that Fiziev's gonna land a beautiful counter, and then he's just gonna flatline Gaethje near the fence there. That's what I think. I kind of like Justin Gaethje, but man, that damage against Max Holloway, a fast guy who kind of landed some decent looping shots, decent spinning attacks. Justin Gaethje's nose is broken now. It was a vicious beating and flatline KO. Too much damage throughout his career. Every single time he went to war or got rocked, it was not good. It looked vicious. It looked devastating. You didn't want to see that from Gaethje, and it's not gonna fare well for him in this fight. It really isn't. And then Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. Now, I've done some really good fight analysis on this one as well. I've watched back all their fights, to be honest. I'm really into this fight. This is definitely one of my most hyped and anticipated fights in recent memory. Magomed Ankalaev, he has beautiful straight shots, straight left, straight jab. His left hook even is going to be there, coming in, blitzing, and then coming out very defensively responsible. He can implement a lot of what Khalil Roundtree did, a lot of success there, while being more well-rounded, while having the option to shoot for takedowns if he exits irresponsibly, which he usually doesn't. He has very safe exits out of these boxing exchanges. He does have slightly better boxing defense as well. Alex Pereira, he does keep his hands somewhat lower and extended. The head kick is there against Alex Pereira, even from a shorter guy in Khalil Roundtree Jr. He did land it in moments, and when Alex Pereira goes for the head kick, sometimes he does keep it kind of obvious where he goes for the leg kick and then head kick, or vice versa. He'll go for the head kick and then he'll go low. We saw that against Khalil Roundtree, who, like I said, he'll replicate a lot of success that Magomed can implement. Go for the throw the right first, and then go over top with a beautiful left. Magomed has a beautiful straight left. Sometimes hooks, sometimes that's there. People don't test the body of Alex Pereira enough. Khalil Roundtree landed a beautiful body kick in the beginning of the third round, just before he faded, where it stumbled Alex Pereira. Not really stumbled, but it knocked him back pretty far into the cage. It literally like pushed him all the way back to the cage, and they were kind of in the center of the octagon. So that shows that Alex Pereira's body isn't tested enough, and he really doesn't like it when you do test it. So Alex Pereira, don't get me wrong, his left hook is there. He has an underrated jab. He throws it with really good ferocity. You see it stun Khalil Roundtree in the third and even in the fourth round. He does have some really good hooks and uppercuts when he gets aggressive. He kind of got into the Matrix mode against Khalil Roundtree when he got gassed. I don't think Magomed is going to gas like that, though, and he does have the takedowns to fade Alex Pereira. Now, Jan Blachowicz was fading in their fight, but you got to consider, I'm talking about Jan versus Pereira, but even against Ankalaev. But you got to consider that Jan he's more like flat-footed and oafy in his style, where Magomed is more light on his feet, and you saw against Jan Blachowicz for Magomed that he's able to go 5 rounds, and he's still more light on his feet all the way to the fifth round. He's the one that's going to be going for takedowns when his legs are chewed up bad late in the fight. So even if he's chewed up bad, even if he's getting battered for 3 rounds, 4 rounds even, he's the one that's going to be the aggressor going for the takedowns. Maybe not the aggressor throughout the whole fight, but the aggressor in the takedown department. And so ultimately, I think that this is a very, very, very good, underrated underdog pick here. I know that lots of people had their reasons for picking Alex Pereira. He has a very good left hook. We all know that. He has really good leg kicks, and this is something that Jan Blachowicz was able to implement very well against Magomed Ankalaev. One thing we got to consider here as well with that, and don't get me wrong, I think that these are solid reasons. The jab, the left hook, the leg kick, these are very solid reasons for Alex Pereira to be picked here. But one thing we're forgetting here is Magomed Ankalaev fought against Alexander Rakic and Johnny Walker twice, and all of those fights, Magomed Ankalaev did not do the chicken dance. He checked leg kicks more. He lifted the leg when he was going forward in anticipation for leg kicks. He was much more responsible defensively for all sorts of kicks. And Magomed Ankalaev, he keeps his guard higher for these body, not leg or body, these head kicks I'm talking about. He swipes away at these body kicks pretty decently. Some of them went through for Rakic, but we're forgetting when people talk about the leg kicks. Jan Blachowicz has thudding leg kicks. Alex Pereira, yeah, you don't see them. Yeah, there's not a lot of torque on them. But how come Alexander Rakic, who has very good leg kicks, was disabling Anthony Smith, and he couldn't do a thing to Magomed Ankalaev with the leg kicks, really. It wasn't making him do the Irish jig, as Lucas Tracy would say. It wasn't making him wobble, you guys. Johnny Walker was going to that a lot, and he did not have any success there. And then, Magomed Ankalaev found the KO on him. Beautiful straight punches. He has very good straight punches. And he has really good straight punches to the body as well. Against Alexander Rakic, that is most of the shots that he was finding in the second round, actually. Yeah, he found a decent moment in the second round, in the middle of the second round, where Alexander Rakic was up against the fence and he had some decent straight shots, a little bit around the guard. He was kind of he did hurt Rakic a little bit there, but it was mostly the body shots that was really getting the wind out of Alexander Rakic in that fight. And so you're seeing these body shots as well lately. You see that he's actually improving his boxing more and more and more. And then he's the younger guy. He's definitely going to be the one improving his stand up more. Alex Pereira is going to be improving his grappling, yes, but Magomed Ankalaev, you see all these like times in which people talk about his grappling, and they're kind of disregarding it. It's like, yeah, but without legs, he was freaking taking down Jan Blachowicz, who's a freaking refrigerator of a guy. Sure, when he's offensively grappled, he's not that good, but he is a freaking 220-pound beast of a guy, okay? And Magomed took him down with pretty freaking crazy ease, okay? Yes, earlier in the fight when he was fresher, Jan Blachowicz was stuffing a few takedowns, but he was getting held up against the fence. Magomed was clearly faster in these clinch exchanges. He was clearly finding the better of these boxing exchanges, and I just don't see Pereira getting these left hooks that are going to KO Magomed when he's much more defensively responsible than a Yuri who just, when he's finding success for some reason, he just throws a telegraphed overhand right, and then Alex Pereira beautifully counters with the left hook in their first fight. Or a Jamal Hill who just throws an untelegraphed straight right, or I think it was a straight left, whatever. And then Alex Pereira finds the shovel uppercut or left hook. It's like these guys are not on Magomed's level. He's just way more well-rounded. I truly believe that Magomed is the most skilled light heavyweight in the division. So I'm going to have to say a 48-46 or a 48-47. Maybe a 48-46 on two of the judges' scorecards and a 48-47 on one of them. I think this is an insane fight, but people are massively underrating Magomed Ankalaev. And, the reasons that they're giving, again, they're good, but Magomed has more paths to victory here. I think that's the outlier here. And he can implement the beautiful blitzes that Khalil Rountree had in earlier moments of their fight. And Alex Pereira, if he overextends on head kicks, he can beautifully counter with a short hook, left or right, Magomed. So, yeah, I think this is a pretty clear pick here. And, again, very close fight, but this is just how I see it. I've done so much analysis on this card specifically, so who knows? We'll see if it pays off. Thank you so much for watching. Masked MMA out. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you next time.